This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, the anti-Trump revolution. Our guest this evening, back by popular demand, Trevor Loudon. He is the writer of the documentary The Enemies Within, which is an expose on the growing communist and Muslim Brotherhood influence on our government. And he's also the writer of the new mini video, America Under Siege, Civil War 2017. Trevor Loudon, welcome back to the Glazov Gang.
Thanks for having me on, Jamie. It's always great to be on.
So let's begin. I've watched this mini documentary, fascinating stuff, scary stuff. Tell us about America Under Siege and this civil war that's breaking out in 2017.
Look, we saw a very violent and fractious election cycle. We saw riots, we saw punchings, assaults, smashing of cars. We saw the mass demonstrations before the inauguration, after the inauguration, and they are continuing all over the country. And there was a lot of violence in Washington, D.C. Cars were torched, windows were broken. So what we're saying is there's a new level here. You know, every time there's a new Republican president, the left gets upset. But this has gone way beyond that. And we have to understand these are not college kids doing this kind of stuff. All these demonstrations are being led by hardcore professional revolutionaries, many of them with ties to foreign actors. And I include in that Iran, Cuba, North Korea, and particularly Putin's Russia, which is probably the most surprising of all, because we've all heard the narrative that, you know, Russia tried to influence the election in favor of Trump, etc. But what the documentary shows is that a lot of these leading anti-Trump revolutionaries are in fact tied to Russia, tied to Putin's Russia today.
Okay, absolutely. And you showed, they're very well organized. You showed these, they're literally communists, the Workers' World Party, etc., and they're all behind this anti-Trump movement. Tell us about, the Workers' World Party, and, these are all radical leftists and communists, and, they're against Trump, but it's much bigger than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Look, the two groups we focus on, and we could have focused on half a dozen groups, but they all have their own front groups working on this issue. The ones we focused on were the Workers' World Party and their very close allies, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. What binds them together? They're both Stalinist, they're both pro-Russia, they're both pro-North Korea, and they're both pro-Iran. These are the extreme of the extreme. They are violent. They've, for instance, 23 Freedom Road Socialist Organization supporters were arrested by the FBI back in 2010 for actively supporting, communist revolutionary groups and terrorist groups in Latin America and also in the Palestinian territories. And their homes were raided, their papers were seized. And it was only because you had an Obama Justice Department that those prosecutions never went ahead. So the Workers' World Party is very well entrenched. It's not a big party, a few hundred members, but they have a reputation for violence. They have a reputation for slavish adherence to overseas Stalinist regimes. And they have a very well-organized machine in many of the major cities in this country. They played a very big role in Ferguson, for instance. They played a very big role in the Baltimore riots. And if you go back, they played a big role in the LA riots of the 90s and the anti-Vietnam War riots of the 70s and 60s.
Thank you, Trevor. So look, why do you think they hate Trump so much?
Look, the left in general thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they were going to get 4 more years of Obama's policies, which basically would have put them in the driver's seat in America. America would have been so transformed by the end of that 4 years, it would be unrecognizable. So they were all just drooling and salivating, and they were thought Hillary Clinton was going to get in and she was going to give them everything they wanted. And they're like a bunch of kids who thought they were going to get a bike for Christmas and they got a pair of socks instead. They are angry because they can see that Trump is the first president to come along in 50 years that actually wants to roll back their agenda. Not just hold the line or slow them down, but actually push back and get them out of positions of power and get them out of influence and just burst their politically correct bubble. And that terrifies them because they know he might do that. So they are doing everything they can to make the country ungovernable, everything they can to embarrass them and slow them down. They are desperate. They're like cornered rats.
Yeah, absolutely, Trevor. And you touch on another thing about how the left and communists, how they're really engaged in this vicious name calling. And they create these slanders of how they dehumanize and demonize their opposition. And I mean, we see that today, like I've been watching, I watch CNN, MSNBC, you keep an eye on what the enemy's doing. And the way that they refer, for instance, to Steve Bannon and to Breitbart. And I mean, anyone who knows about Breitbart and Bannon knows that these are some, among the top, most noble, courageous, humanitarian people in the West that are fighting against, anti-Semitism, fighting for Israel, fighting for civil rights, all kinds of things. But it's just become a given for the left that, it's racist, it's homophobic, it's Islamophobic, and now they're even entering anti-Semitism into this somehow, when in fact, we know that Breitbart and Bannon, these have been the greatest forces on the side of Israel all these years. Yep. Tell us about this name calling.
Well, we open the film with a quote from Lenin. And Lenin, to paraphrase Lenin, he said, we basically must demonize and treat all our opposition with absolute contempt. We must vilify anybody who disagrees with us. That is our role. And Alinsky, who was basically a disciple of Lenin in this country, said that we must freeze and polarize people and fix a target and demonize them and bring them down. And this is what they're doing with Trump. It's what they're doing with Steve Bannon. It's what they did with General Flynn. It's they're just doing it to anybody who stands in their way. Racist, Islamophobic, homophobic, sexist. All of these terms are invented by the left, by the radical communist groups, to be used as weapons to terrify people and intimidate people. And Trump, to his credit, basically sort of sticks it back in their face and laughs at it, because and the American people love that.
You showed too in this mini documentary, the Workers' World Party, and I forget her name, but there's this radical woman and she's screaming about the revolution and all this stuff. And then at the end, she screams, "Black Lives Matter." And that was very interesting. Tell us about the role of Black Lives Matter in this communist revolution.
Yeah, well, people say to me, look, communism, that's died 50 years ago, 20 years ago with the fall of the Berlin Wall. What are you talking about communism in America? Now, can you anybody tell me that Black Lives Matter has not had a big impact on American society? And and they'll say yes for positive or negative, whatever. Look, Black Lives Matter is completely controlled by a branch of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. Patrice Cullors, Alicia Garza, and Opal Tometi are all actively involved for many years in Freedom Road Socialist fronts. All three of them are Marxists. Freedom Road got 10,000 people into Ferguson to bolster that riot up there from all over the country. They brought in the Workers' World Party. They brought in the Communist Party USA. It is a completely 100% communist-controlled operation. And furthermore, some of them have links with Russia, and many of them have gone over to Palestine, to what they call Palestine, to learn from the Intifada, from the Palestinian revolutionaries. And they have a quote, from Ferguson to Palestine, build the revolution.
Yeah.
It's completely tied up with Islamic terrorism, the PLO and Hamas, the Russians. All of them are involved in this Black Lives Matter movement. It's nothing to do with helping black people. It's about bringing chaos to the streets of America.
Trevor, once again, we see the unholy alliance and everything that's happening, the joining here of the left and Islamic supremacism. Please briefly conclude for us under a minute. Where is this anti-Trump revolution headed, and what can we do to stop it?
Look, it's headed towards paralyzing the Trump administration, terrorizing the rhinos who are going to be used to try and stop Trump's agenda, to subpoena him and not vote for his procedures. We have to be out there on Twitter, on Facebook, every social media thing we can to support the president and counter this agenda, because they watch Twitter, they watch Facebook, they want to know what the public support them. And that's one thing every American can do: get a Twitter account, get a Facebook account, and pound the truth out there 24/7. That's the most important thing right now to win that battle of public opinion.
Thank you so much, Trevor. For those people who are inspired by you and want to get in touch with you and help you in whatever you're doing, how can they reach you? Where should they go?
Go to trevorloudon.com, trevorloudon.com. From my daily blog, my website, you can order my movie, The Enemies Within. You can see the 20-minute documentary we've just released. But yeah, just go to trevorloudon.com, and the Loudon is Loudon, and you can follow what I do there. Great.
Trevor Loudon, keep up the great work.
Always a pleasure, Jamie. I hope I was enthusiastic enough for you, but we'll see you again shortly.
Great to have you on the Glazov Gang. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, my friend.
And thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. If you like this show, go to jamieglazov.com to support the show, because we're a fan-generated show. And the least you could do is subscribe to the YouTube channel of the Glazov Gang. Good night.